catch the full conversation on CNBC-TV18.com. Thanks, Mangalam, for that. A comprehensive takeaway from a very rare interview. In fact, to discuss more on this, we have Biju Kurian, who is the chairman of the Retailers Association of India. He was also the former president and chief executive at Reliance Retail as well. Biju, thank you very much for taking the time out. Well, you know, the big question and discussion is definitely what is taking place with quick commerce. We saw it with Zomato, where Blinkit really stole the show this time in terms of the talking points. What is your sense in terms of the further scalability for quick commerce in the Indian market?
Well, I think quick commerce, if you ask me, is a service which is being provided, largely driving the need for households who kind of run out of groceries, and because of which they actually are using this opportunity to be able to what you call as top-up groceries, to be able to buy top-up groceries. This, I think, will continue to remain a need because of the fact that the way we buy groceries has also changed over the years. You know, traditionally we used to buy from large wholesale markets, then we used to do monthly shopping. And now when you look at it, we actually end up buying more frequently during the course of the week. And as long as that happens, then it's quite likely that you will need, you know, a combination of buying from a grocery store as well as having somebody supply to you at home.
All right. You know, Biju, the thing that we want to understand now is that while quick commerce is a big opportunity and everyone's using it, it's still limited to just a few metros. At scale, do you think there's room for more players here, or maybe is it a winner-takes-all sort of market?
Well, it's a high investment category. And along with being a high investment category, it also needs to make sure that you scale. So you could see that even a company like Zomato has managed to scale quite significantly, but despite that loses money in this particular category. So to my mind, if you ask me, I think if you're going to be able to achieve revenues in the region of maybe about 3,500, 4,000 crores, you'd kind of break even with something like this. The second is that you also, it's because it's high investment and you've got the promise of 10 to 15 minutes, you need to be able to you know, use extremely sophisticated analytics to be able to determine where your dark stores need to be put up, and also the amount of investment that you want to keep in these dark stores in order to be able to fulfill your promise. So it's overall, it's a good game to play in. Currently, it's confined only to groceries and home essentials, but there's no reason why this service can't also extend to other categories of products.
So just to take that point forward, because that's the key point, that how much do you think it can expand? Which are these other categories that companies could probably look to invest in and probably have a first mover advantage?
Speedy fulfillment is, I think, an essential consumer requirement. And everybody looks to try and make sure that, you know, if you buy something online, you want to get it at your home as fast as possible. Currently, the only things which demand that it needs to come in there as quickly as possible are groceries, because you require it as part of the kitchen. However, if you're getting something else within half an hour or within a couple of hours also, you still are making a difference compared to what the classical e-commerce players are currently doing. So I think to that extent, you will certainly find that over a period of time, if you go into, let's say, electronics, if you go into things like, you know, electronic accessories, stuff that you need in an office, you need at home, you suddenly realize that you run out of it. Can I check it on quick commerce before I actually order it on even another online player?
You know, if the purchase decision is made, then the only impediment is the delivery time, and it cannot be done sooner. So that we take your point that, you know, once categories broaden out, people would want things faster. We've seen that with cell phones, and even as, you know, recently when the PlayStation 5 was launched, it was launched on quick commerce itself. But what Neville said, that while we'll be able to compete, that is DMart, it is the sudden disruption of general trade that needs to be keenly watched. What happens to general trade then? Do all of them turn into dark stores?
Not necessarily. They don't need to turn into dark stores. what the quick commerce players are doing, general stores can also do. If a quick commerce player is creating a dark store, which is essentially a warehouse, and then moving goods from the warehouse to a consumer's home, the close by general store can also do the same thing, and many of them do it. Traditionally, you know that if you call up your local retailer, grocer, and tell him that, please send a pound of bread across, that's something which he's very comfortable doing. Or your pharmacist and asking them to send medicines across. Now, this is something we don't call it quick commerce. It's something which happens in half an hour, depending on, what is the nature of the need. But at the end of it, if you ask me, general stores have the same capability as any quick commerce player. The way in which they do it might be less sophisticated than a quick commerce player, but essentially they can do the same thing.
Okay. Well, for DMart in particular, what do you think the company probably needs to do going forward in order to create that moat or to create that USP and sustain earnings?
I'm sure Neville will have more ideas about what needs to be done, but I think if you ask me, digital is an integral part of running a physical business today. There is no way that you can say that I will only have a store and I'll only serve customers in the store. You have to understand that your store is a point of access as far as the customer is concerned. And one way of serving the customer is to have them walk into the store and pick up. The other way of serving the customer is to be able to connect with them digitally and then figure out how to be able to deliver to them physically. So you have to try and see how to translate your store from merely being a location where customers come to also a place where you can integrate a lot of digital technologies and be able to do exactly what a quick commerce player can do.
Final question then, and this is from the perspective of CPG companies. How will CPG companies reset their thinking when it comes to supplying to another channel, when it comes to their price, the range, the assortment that they have to fulfill to all these channels? What is the kind of reset that is required by them?
I don't think there requires to be too much of a difference to what they're currently doing. They currently actually are replenishing stocks at retailers' counters. Retailers have inventory management systems which allow them to be able to actually order as and when the stock levels decline. So to that extent, I don't think there'll be too much of a difference which needs to be made to them. The play will be at the front end in terms of pricing. While delivery might end up becoming table stakes, at pricing levels, you can have some who are willing to be able to burn cash and some who might say that, I need to protect my margins. That's the only area where CPG companies need to be worrying because, the general trade has less ability to be able to offer deep discounts, whereas some of the larger online players can afford to do that.
Okay. All right, Mr. Kurian, it's been a pleasure hearing your views on the entire retail sector in India. I'm sure we'll touch base with you much more in the future to get your perspective on what is a rapidly changing scenario. Thanks very much for joining in and talking to us. We need to take a short break, more on the stocks and back to the markets on the other side. Stay tuned.